We are about to start the second day of questioning of the undercover police officer Robert Hastings, who, using the cover name Rob Harrison, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, No Borders Network, the State of Emergency Collective, and Rampart Social Centre. Significantly, he was involved in the sexual abuse of a woman we are calling Maya. His questioning today will centre on that. I'm joined by Donald O'Driscoll from the Undercover Research Group. What do you make of what we're going to hear today?
Well, we heard from Maya last week. I think University agreed to be some of the most shocking evidence heard to date in the inquiry. We've heard a lot of bad things, but that was definitely ranking as deeply disturbing, deeply misogynist. What happened to her? Just plain old sex. It was just sexual abuse. Not plain old. It was just pure sexual abuse. Horrible to have heard anybody went through this. She went through it at the hands of a serving police officer who was deceiving her all the way.
Yeah, and doing it on police time. Well, actually, he returned to do it as recently as 2014, after the inquiry had been called. Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day yesterday, Mitting said that he was aware there was a lot of noise being made in the public gallery during the hearings, and he wasn't telling us to be quiet about that. But today, for today's hearing, it's essential that the hearing is done in silence, so that his answers can be fully heard.
And for Mayor's benefit.
Mayor's benefit, it's very able to hear it. I mean, also, I think there is something about the fact that yesterday there was a moment when Robert Hastings was questioned about the other housemate of Atif Chowdhury, who was another Asian, was an Asian woman, a young Asian woman, who he made sexual advances towards, and at one moment he broke and his voice slightly changed and went, "She was," and then he caught himself and stopped. And I think that's partially because he's aware of the existence of the public gallery, and perhaps, you know, there's a feeling that we kind of break, if we don't break that kind of spell a little bit, you know, perhaps he'll be a bit more honest. I think it's fairly, you know.
Although it's very hard to listen to the evidence of somebody like him and not react. You know, I think the fact the meeting wasn't as usual. You will be silent. You will be silent. Like, Tony, please stop. It was like he could understand that what Harrison was saying, or Hastings, let's use his real name, was disturbing. That this is unpleasant for anybody to have to sit and listen to. Like, and you know, the people reacting is just kind of letting off steam. It wasn't like a chorus of a thing. It was just like, oh, that's catching a breath. We're reacting because it is so bad. And this is important because it is showing in real time just how that evidence is landing with the general public, which is, oh my God, who is this guy who was paid to be a serving police officer? This, when people talk about institutional sexism in the Met, we've seen it with Jenner, with Boiling, and now we're seeing it with him. This is misogyny personified. Yeah,
very much. I mean, so many of his... I mean, the fact that he centered himself entirely, you know, that it was difficult for him, you know.
There's one point where he was almost really emotional, looked at me, he might be crying. I was like, oh yeah, crocodile tears, mate.
Yeah.
We've heard Maya's evidence is not going to burst cut with us.
Or was it Gabrielle's tears?
Gabrielle's tears. Oh.
I mean, like, there were so many details that we heard of his behavior, so many emails that we saw that he sent Maya, which, I mean, he's going to be presented with today. I mean, how on earth he gets out of them, I have no idea. He's absolutely banged to rights, really.
Yeah, and I think this is a very curious question. All the undercovers so far have been banged to rights, and we have seen some outrageous lying in the face of reality. I think Carlos Saraki's denial of the truth was a spectacular own goal, but also just how anybody, normal, rational person, could lie to themselves and lie to the people that much. And the big question is, will he repeat the same mistakes of all his fellow officers and try and talk his way out of it? He clearly thinks he's still on the cover. He still thinks he's playing the same game that he played 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's not going to cut it.
I can't see it. I mean, he was incredibly angry yesterday. There was a sense of, like, kind of him suppressed rage throughout his entire evidence. I can only imagine what his reaction is going to be when he's presented with, like, you know, the pretty obvious stuff that he did.
Yeah, and you could see that he was getting angrier and angrier throughout the day, that, you know, he did not want to be there. He felt, you know, he was being punished. You know, you got the sense that he was like, why am I being held to account? I'm the victim. I didn't do my marriage failed. You know, it's like Maya didn't break apart your marriage. You broke your marriage. Because your behavior, you're the one who repeatedly cheated.
Yes.
No acknowledgement that he is a serial cheater.
I mean, it was quite interesting. One of the questions yesterday, which there was no follow-up to, but I was really like, kind of, oh, what does that mean? He was asked at the very beginning when he was about the way in which the managers like visited him and his partner in their home to check that he had a stable family life. He said, "Did they ask you about your sex life outside of your partnership?" And he said, "Oh no, they didn't."
Yeah, and it's clear that he's not being particularly being faithful.
No.
But this is a question that should be put to all the other undercovers.
Yes.
They're all presented as having these strong, stable relationships, upstanding police officers, and you also have all these deeply unpleasant men still speaking on behalf of their partners.
Yes.
My wife wouldn't have believed. Well,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't believe that. And it's a shame we are not hearing from more wives. We've heard from one, S, and her testimony was really powerful. I suspect if we had heard from more, we would get a lot of what S said, and
and more besides,
and more besides, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that Peter Francis was one of the few, was the only police officer who said, "Yeah, not only was I being being deceptive to my target group, I was having sex while I was undercover with women that I met in nightclubs, but also I was being unfaithful to my wife generally, and had been for a long time. That was part of my life." And we get the impression that that's kind of standard behavior for these professional con men who are deceitful as a matter of course.
Yeah, but this all goes to the ethos of these are special branches. They're representing the state. They're meant to be these upstanding officers. You can see how proud they all are to be in special branch. It makes them special. They take it to heart. That's like, you're dirty, grubby men.
Yes, yeah, very literally.
I'm saying that as a man. You are dirty and grubby men.
Yeah. There was a lot of activists were disappointed to see that it wasn't David Barr who was doing the questions yesterday, but I think we've all come to warm to Sarah Hemingway's approach. I think the fact that there's a comment here now which I think says the same thing, really. I think Sarah Hemingway may be the correct strategy. HN18, Rob Hastings hates women so much the mask will slip. And I think that's very true. I think that he really can't cope with a strong woman. And I think that will have an effect on the kind of evidence that he gives.
Yes, it really does come across that he's a classic sociopath. He's very good at masking it, but when he's put through the mill consistently, it's harder and harder to maintain the mask, and you can start seeing it slipping. So he starts going, I can pretend to be the victim. Shit, it's not working. What's my next strategy? And he's going to cycle through all those over the next 2 days as he tries to duck and leave. If he'd any sense of what you said before, he would do a mea culpa, put his hands up and went, I was a shit, I blamed the police for putting me under this pressure. He's going to try and justify everything, and all he's doing is making it worse for himself and continually to hurt the women involved. Yeah, absolutely. The hearing starts fairly soon. We should probably head in and find ourselves a seat. The broadcast will start around 10:10. There are no special measures in place. You'll be able to see and hear everything. It'll be obviously with the usual 10-minute delay. Please follow on if you can. Anything else you'd like to add? Nope. All right, thanks for joining us. Please like, share.